Okay, in this last tutorial, we need to talk about collisions, not just with the edges of the board, but with objects that are moving, right? Because clearly the objects are moving, now he's stuck, but I need to know if I hit him or not, right? I need to know if I hit the cheese, and I need to know if I hit the cat, like that, okay? So we do that by doing the collision checking. Now if I didn't create these as arrays with the same classes, I would have to add multiple collision checking. So I'd have checking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you could go on and on and on. Very basic programming skill, that's what you would do. You would just simply not have created these classes and not added these objects right to the DOM, to the game board specifically, but you would have created like individual objects and then had 15 or 20 different collision checking. If you want to start dropping walls, like if you want to change the game completely where you have walls that are lasers, and if the character hits the wall they die, and so you try and navigate as fast as you can, like maybe you're just moving through a maze and you have to move like this through a maze, and you want to create walls that if you hit them you die, then you would need to write a collision for every single wall. Collision wall 1, collision wall 2, collision wall 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If there were thousands on here, well, one, it would lag the whole computer out, but it would be a very long process and not very good at doing the error checking. So what you can see is I've only got 2 collision checks. One is with all the monsters, or the cats, and one is with the cheese itself. So how do we do it? Check collision. Now we talked about this a little bit in the last activity, but I'm going to go into a little more detail now. Okay, so what we do is we get the position of the character, just so we know where the character is. We get its left position and its right position. Okay, now I look at each monster. I say go to the game board and look through the game board DOM and find any class of monster. So if there's 1, find 1. If there's 2, find 2, 3, 4, 5, however many there are. If you have different objects, you would have different collision checks. You'd have monster 2, and then maybe there's different types of cats that are out there, and some of them have different powers, so on and so forth. So what it says is if this dot has class active. Now we talked about this before, that this having the class active is important. Okay, when we created our monster, when we add the monsters, we gave it class active. So we know that that monster is active. If it's not, we can actually remove that status to it. So see here, I said remove class active and hide it. The reason is if we didn't add the class active and we didn't hide it, what would end up happening is even when you hit it, it would still be active on the page moving around, and you could hit it again. But that's not what we want to happen. We want to hide it and get rid of it. Okay, and I'll show you how we can do that later. Now, and there's other reasons for this as well. Now for the collision, when it collides, if the condition for collision is met, then we remove the class active and we hide it. We reduce the number of lives. We re-update the output so we can move the character back to the beginning if you want. We update your number of lives. We show your status ouch. And then I set up a little timeout function that says, okay, in 500 milliseconds, hide the ouch. So I don't want to keep saying ouch on the page the whole time. So this is a little hack just to get that to happen. Then I go to the next character, see if it hit it. And I just keep constantly checking whether or not I'm hitting these objects. So how I do it is the first one is here. I say if the X position of the character plus the width of him, so that means that's the outer edge of him. So that would be the outer edge right there, because this is the X position is here of the left, and I add the width, so now I'm looking at this little outer edge here. If it's greater than or equal to the left position of the cat, which is this position here, I've hit it. It's that simple. If the X position is if it's greater than that, so if it's inside here, and the X position is less than, oh, where'd it go? Oh, there we go, okay. And the second one says that if the X position, so the left side of the cat, or the mouse, is less than the left position plus the width of the cat, so that means if it's less than this edge, that means that my cat but my mouse is somewhere in between this guy right here. Somewhere in between the left and the right of this character. This represents the left of the character, or the left of the mouse, and this is the edge of the right of the mouse. So if your position is between that, in the X position, you've hit it. Now, you'd have to realize that right now you can see that I'm not, so all's good. Okay, now for the Y. If the Y position is greater than the height of the mouse, so you basically take the top position of the cat up here, subtract the height of the mouse, right? Then that means that the mouse, bottom of the mouse right here, is right there at this point. If it's greater than that, meaning inside here, and it's less than the lower position right here, where I've added the height of the mouse, if it's somewhere in between there, a collision's happened. Now that means it had to be within this square somewhere. Now what you'll notice is if I didn't have the X position, I would hit it right now. Like it would hit as soon as, like if I took this part out, can I even do this? Let's see. So if I got rid of this, let's see if this works. I don't know if it will. Let's see. I think so. Bam. See that? Because the Y position hit it. Watch. Bam. And as soon as that gets to there, see that? As soon as the Y position gets in place, bam, it hit. Now, of course, that's not what I want. I want it to include the X position. And now it won't do it unless the X positions match and the Y positions match. Bam. Didn't do it, right? Unless I get in its way, and bam, it checked. Okay. So that's how you check the collision for multiple objects like that, just looping through each of them on the DOM. If you had different characters out there you're trying to hit, you would do the same thing, but you would duplicate it to whatever class you call it the other thing that's out there. So if it's a mousetrap, you could add a dot mousetrap. You could even, if you wanted to, you could create another check collision with a mousetrap, and you would just add a mousetrap class. You could add one mousetrap, two mousetraps, however many you want, and go from there. Check collision 2 is the win. Same thing, almost no different, except that I got rid of the this, because I said, well, at this point I only have one win that's out there. There's only one piece of cheese, so I can just call it directly and say, hey, if the player width is blah blah blah, and this always remains the same. The other way is just more dynamic. If I had multiple win positions, I would have to change the hashtag win to dot class, dot win, so it would be a class, and then you would have to loop through to see if any of them matched. So if you have multiple win positions, you would do that. If you have specific win positions, like you get the cheese, you get 1 bit of score. If you get some other object, so you might have a collision 3, and there's some other piece of crumb or something like that that the mouse eats, and you get 20 points for that. So you can add different objects that are out there, create different collisions, and just update different IDs. So maybe it's called win 2. I probably should have called this win cheese, but that's okay. So what I do here is I increase the score. I show the new score. Then I say, hey, you got 10 points. And then after 500 milliseconds, you get rid of the points, or the thing that says you showed the points. I did if score equals next level. I only have one level, so that's if you get to 50 points, then you get the next level. And so if score equals 50, then you get the next level. The score goes back to 0, time lapse goes 0. I have to add the cheese back, add the monsters back, which is important. And then I have here that if you ever get to level 5, for every time you hit the cheese on level 5, it gives you an additional character. So you can get up to 5 characters in that level. So, you know, if you keep getting hit, you can keep adding more. And I reset the positions. Okay, so at this point, like, you can start adding in other objects that you want to collide with, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's the basics of the game and what you can do. Now, there's all different types of games you can make. So it's up to you what you do. It doesn't have to be like a chase game like this. You can have characters that just move back and forth, like in the examples that I have. set up in the other, you can see from the exemplars. There's all that you can shoot, where if you press the space bar, maybe it adds a new bullet and the bullet moves. So you would have something like add bullet function, and then you could add multiple bullets. You could create an array called a .bullet class, and over here you would add, move bullet, and or move bullets, and then therefore you could track how they're moving, and then you would have check bullet collision. So there's so much you can do from this position. Really, it's just up to you how you feel about it, and how creative you want to be with it, and how much time you want to spend designing it and developing it. Be sure to look at all the exemplars and different examples, especially the ones that are on my Gearbox one with the games. Those one have that has shooting functionality as well. So have a look at that.